It was just yesterday when we students went to school and met its building every day. It was just yesterday when our teachers greeted us with good morning every morning. Now wake up and accept the truth that we haven't experienced that for quite some time now. On 31st December 2019, the coronavirus was firstly reported, meaning that we have been with this virus for approximately 2 years now. Ever since the emerge of this disease as a response to the virus, schools at every level across the world had been forced to shift to virtual learning, with teachers, students, local leaders struggling to adapt to an entirely new educational learning model. But before speaking more and more, I'm quite curious as to what you think about our current education situation. How do you enjoy this situation right now? Do you take online education effective? And if you had to choose, would you want to continue with online learning beyond the pandemic or not? And why? Dear judges, fellow participants, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, my name is Ayska Daffadilla, and I'm happier than ever today because I would like to deliver my speech about how the coronavirus pandemic has taught us the importance of innovative blended learning for greater access to good and quality education. As we all know, with the outbreak of COVID-19, all sectors of human life has been affected, including our education. According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or more known as UNESCO, over 800 million learners from all around the world has been affected. Now, the question is, which learning model is the ideal learning model for this education during this pandemic and beyond the pandemic? Now, this can be quite tricky, but I think for us to answer this question, we must firstly analyze between the strengths and weaknesses of both online and offline. For this purpose, I try to gather opinions from my friends, asking them which learning model do they prefer, offline or online. And after listening to their answers, I noticed that one of the biggest advantages of online learning is the flexibility it brings with it. Sometimes, students cannot follow their school schedules because of their personal activities, and then they fall behind and experience learning loss. By online learning, all materials are provided online, so it's easy for us to access anytime and anywhere. And also, by offline learning, students have the power to organize their school schedules and take charge in choosing their learning environment, or more known as self-paced learning. However, with all of this being said, not all students feel the effectiveness of this model. Not all my friends felt this way. So, yes, online also has some disadvantages. Online learning requires time management skills and also strong self-motivation, for the feeling of isolation is very common due to no physical interaction. Unluckily, not all students can deal with the situation, thus online learning becomes ineffective for them. Now, moving on to offline learning, it also has some disadvantages and advantages too. In contrast to online learning, by offline, teachers have the opportunity to get individual attention and to provide individual attention to their students physically and also emotionally, addressing their issues and solving it quickly. With this direct and physical interaction, students have the opportunity to acquire and express their knowledge actively and also interactively. Yet, I would like to also remind you all that offline also has some disadvantages, and that is quite contrary to the strengths of online. And that is how there is no recording or data available for students who didn't get access to their learning process because of poor quality internet or high cost of quota, and also those who missed their classes. Now, with all of this being said, which is the ideal learning model then? Is it offline or is it online? Ladies and gentlemen, this is where blended learning comes in and plays an important role in our lives. But what exactly is blended learning? As far as I know, blended learning is the approach of an alternative education where it integrates between conventional learning and also the digital world, which enable students to access physical classrooms and also online platforms. By linking these two models, efficient learning can be produced because it resolves the limitations between two models. And we must also consider that with blended learning, it provides various contents and learning styles for students to access anytime from the comfort of their home and also through physical and direct interaction. Now, with all of this being said, the last question is how exactly and how, to be more specific, how can blended learning be effective? After comparing between the effectiveness between online and offline, we can conclude that blended learning is the ideal learning model for our education in the future, and that efficient learning can be produced when using the right technique. Now, this is just for an example. Maybe during online time, students can absorb their materials by theory and understand it independently first. And then when it's offline time, they can deepen and widen their understandings through active learning, or to be more specific, by joining practices, by critical discussions, direct presentations, cooperative collaborations, and also by using technology. As we step into the digital world, the literacy of multimedia and technology is very much needed, and thus blended learning becomes a solution because it establishes the intelligence of students on the use of technology. Now, with all of this being said, here I conclude that education cannot go on with its traditional way and should embrace technology. But at the same time, education cannot go fully online, for it also needs some physical and direct interaction. So I firmly believe that blended learning, when designed and developed innovatively and creatively, creates great offers and access to good and quality education. And by this note, I end my speech. Thank you so much for your attention, your time, and patience. I hope this can be helpful and impactful for you all. Thank you all so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.